The two-day conference is looking at the last decade of industrial relations in the Hunter and will try to set an agenda for the future. While David Boyd's address seemed to flow on from the government's industrial relations law changes announced yesterday, the formation of enterprise work agreements directly with employers is an idea he has been expounding for some time.
We should, I think, be careful to encourage those skills that have nurtured enterprise-style agreements so that we create and maintain a marginal advantage in our competitiveness and ability to get jobs done on time and on budget better than other people.
Trade with Asia was Mr Boyd's other main topic. He said the time is right because Asia can now afford any goods we care to produce. Their standard of living has overtaken ours and we must catch up.
But I submit that this could be our last chance. Japan, Korea, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, all becoming much more affluent. We have the resources, energy, food, technological know-how, which is the thing that I think Australia has a particular strength in, which we don't capitalise on enough.
The conference continues tomorrow with speakers including the Federal Industrial Relations Minister, Peter Morris.
Police are still slowly piecing together details of Lee's last few hours alive, an evening spent at the birthday party of a Newcastle high school friend. Though 45 of the partygoers have been interviewed, police admit they are no closer to finding Lee's killer. But they have established some disturbing facts about that party in the old North Stockton Surf Club on Friday night. There was no adult supervision and a large amount of alcohol was consumed.
She was intoxicated at some stage during the party and an incident did take place which we're looking at, which caused us some concern.
Can you tell me anything more about that incident?
No, that matter's been looked at the present time. I'd rather not disclose that.
On routine patrol, uniformed police visited the party at 8:30 p.m. and reported no cause for concern. But today it's believed there was a possibility of drugs at the party too.
Well, there's implements that were homemade implements used for smoking marijuana found. But whether that's connected to the party, we don't know.
Lee was strangled and received a blow to the stomach and was also subjected to sexual assault.
There is evidence to indicate that she was sexually interfered with on more than one occasion, yes.
And does this mean that you're looking for one or more than one person?
Well, we're certainly looking at this stage. It indicates more than one person may be involved, yes.
The Australian champ flew into Belmont today from Victoria, looking no worse for wear after his three-round encounter with Queensland Trevin Hooper. Lance moved well early in the bout and landed some strong punches. However, he says he was not able to unleash his entire arsenal.
Yeah, when you hurt them with body shots, they hold on a lot, and because they get tired, and if you can work on the body more, you can put them down, but they all hold on all the time. It's pretty difficult.
At the end of the 3 rounds, Lance won on straight points, only losing 1 point from each of the 3 judges. Lance says although he'll be taking the next month easy, it won't be a holiday as he'll begin preparations to move into the senior ranks.
I'm going to have a month off and prepare for Paul Isles from Queensland, the Queensland champion and runner-up Australian champion senior from Queensland, and I'll fight him early next month. And after that, I'll hopefully fight Eddie Unan.
In just 10 minutes, the town was pelted by hail, hurled by winds of more than 100 kilometres an hour. Windows were smashed, sheds torn down and trees flattened in a storm like one the town has never seen before.
Hail everywhere. It was hanging over the gutters. The ground was just 6 inches thick against the walls. It would have been a foot deep, and it was just, the whole village was totally white, absolutely white. It was just, I have never ever seen anything like it.
One man saw extensions to his house ripped down before his eyes.
Came right through, demolished this section of the house completely.
Much of Broke's business is growing grapes. Its 400 hectares of vineyards have been severely affected. Lindeman's Wines grow 40% of its grapes in Broke. They say crops have been severely affected, but they're not the only ones who reported damage to a harvest they'll never reap.
The hail was very severe, as you can see. It was something like, and it was very windy. It was, my way of interpreting this...
It was a roar.
It was a roar,
yes.
And it was something like firing a machine gun into a grapevine. With the velocity of the wind and the hail, it's smashed all these shoots to pieces. These vines were planted in 1972. We averaged 7 tonne an acre. Just looking at them, I'd be lucky to pick 1 tonne an acre in this coming vintage.
Well, Ross, it's all happening down here at the Broadmeadow TAB, the head office of the Newcastle and Hunter Valley TABs, and people are flocking in to place their bets on Australia's biggest race, the Melbourne Cup for 1989. And what a race it should be. Of course, we've heard earlier this morning that bottom number 4 has been taken out of the race, but there's still a lot of interest in this, with Empire Rose, Stylish Century still in favouritism. A lot of money for Empire Rose. It'll be very interesting to see what the track conditions are like around race time. With me this morning is the regional manager of the TAB, Bob Russell. And Bob, what will Newcastle and the Hunter Valley hold on this particular race?
Mike, we normally hold around about 10% of the state. The state's predicting in excess of 23 million, and the Hunter and Newcastle tabs will take somewhere around 10 or a little less.
Been Bedlam since about 7:30?
Yeah, very steady and getting a little bit like Bedlam now, yeah.
Good on you, Bob. Bob Russell from the TAB and the Newcastle and Hunter Valley branch. And of course, Ross, nationally they're going to hold around $70 million. That's a lot of money. Don't forget, cup time is 2:40. Lovely. Thanks.
The Westpac Bank had been trading for about half an hour when 2 men walked in at about 10 o'clock on Thursday the 2nd and donned balaclavas. One of the men produced a handgun which he levelled at a stunned teller. There were no customers in the bank, but a security camera recorded the staff's terrifying ordeal. The second man leapt over the counter, helping himself to cash in a security box. Within minutes, they'd fled from the building, taking a substantial amount of cash. The pair removed their balaclavas before running across the road to Torpy Place. It was here, just a couple of 100 metres from the bank, that the trail ran cold. Residents have given police a description of the fugitives, but they believe there are others who could provide that vital link
which leads to an arrest.
We are appealing to people in the Tudor Street extended area if they may have seen these two fellows get into a car or a motorbike, or saw a car parked there or persons acting suspiciously prior to 10 o'clock and shortly after 10 o'clock last Thursday.
Do you believe that the weapon they had was in fact a pistol?
At this stage we believe that it was a real pistol, and we are appealing to people, if they do happen to see these people, not to confront them, because we believe they are armed and dangerous.
Police have descriptions of both men. The first is about 178 centimetres tall, of medium build, with dark hair and a pale complexion. He was wearing a flannelette shirt and jeans. The second man is 176 centimetres tall, also of medium build, with a pale complexion and a small goatee beard. He was wearing a dark jumper and tracksuit pants. Witnesses have helped police prepare a likeness of that man. If you think you recognise him or the descriptions of either of these people, contact police on the Crime Stoppers number now. The number is 008 422 199. There is a reward of up to $1,000 for information leading to the conviction of these men. If you do not wish to leave your name, police will give you a secret code number which you can quote to collect your reward.
The Knights were called to lend some muscle to the region's appeal. It's hoped at least 1,000 Christmas hampers will be handed out over the next 2 months for families struggling to provide the basics during the festive season. Newcastle Smith family manager Les Slack says there's a number of reasons why the organisation will be handing out up to 13% more hampers this year.
Unemployment has a lot to do with it, and the increase in the number of single parents that need assistance.
The hampers include Christmas cake, tin food, custard powder, canned drink, along with a small or handcrafted toy. Santa, representing Lambton and New Lambton Lions clubs, presented a $13,000 cheque, and the Newcastle View Club also presented $1,000 to help in the appeal. Knights 5'8" Steve Fulmer says the players thought packing hampers would be a good chance to return a favour.
The community do a lot for the Knights, and we thought that we'd help the community, you know, with a fundraiser with the Smith family appeal.
The 400 striking employees met this morning to discuss whether they should return to work and accept the Industrial Commission's decision to lift all work bans. On Monday, all staff from the clerical, cleaning and kitchen sections walked off the job over an alleged lack of communication between the Hunter Area Health Service and the union over their job security. Union organiser Peter Clapman says the strike was called over frustration about rumours that a Melbourne-based company, Infobank, would take over purchasing and stores functions for all the Area Health Service facilities.
What sparked the decision is that for about 10 to 12 months, representatives of the Area Health Service have been going out to the hospitals and telling the staff that Infobank is going to be functional, that they're having these negotiations, that Infobank will in fact probably be up and running by February of next year. During those discussions, there have been a lot of statements made about what will and what won't happen to the employees at the time. Some of them are very conflicting. The staff have now said February is only 4 months away. We want answers as to what our future is going to be.
The Industrial Commission agreed that the Area Health Service should answer the questions over job security no later than midday Friday. If the answers are not delivered, the matter will then be listed to be heard by the tribunal and further industrial action could follow. The work bans have also enraged parents and relatives of patients at Royal Newcastle Hospital. One mother whose son requires special meals due to a rare bowel complaint says the dispute placed patients in unnecessary trauma and strain on relatives to perform the missing services.
We brought him out of a private hospital to come to this hospital because of the dietary and nutritional specifications that only this hospital could provide, and we're up against a strike like this.
What sort of problems is it causing for your son?
Well, we need to bring extra food into the hospital because he needs a very high caloric intake, And although the support groups are doing their best, and they really are, it's just not sufficient to meet his needs.
It almost looks too good to be true. A colourful, exciting and stimulating range of teaching aids and ideas that takes maths off the printed page and puts it right into the hands of the children. From next year, this will be the scene in all primary classrooms from kindergarten upwards, the first major change in the subject for 17 years.
Maths is fun, it's exciting, a lot of investigating and creativity. And this new curriculum is designed to show teachers just what they can do, and parents as well, what they can do in the classroom and at home with their kids.
For the younger ones, games, blocks, shapes and play money will be some of the teaching tools, while the older children will be challenged by calculators and computers. Girls who have traditionally shied away from mathematics will be targeted in the scheme, which is the first of 6 new syllabuses to be introduced in schools over the next 4 years. But the syllabus can only be as good as those who teach it, so Maths Task Force members like Rick Carter will be encouraging teachers and parents to adopt this practical approach.
I'm just so overexcited, or really excited about what's going on. It should be a really brilliant advancement for maths.
This is what's left of the Sugarloaf colliery where 3 men died during its 29-year operation. Only rail tracks provide a hint of where it used to be. The mine opened in 1949, but with its profitable life over, it was closed. Its sign taken down, dumped and left to rust away. West Wallsend primary school teachers found the sign, restored it and gave it a place of honour in the school grounds, where today its portals became bearers of a memorial plaque carrying the names of all 41 men who died in 8 local mines over the past century. The service was performed by the school's prefects and the school captain, whose grandfather worked in the Stockton mines for 27 years before he retired last year. He was there today to watch the ceremony.
I think West Wallsend's a traditional mining town, and I think it's a shame that if the heritage that was granted by those miners are forgotten.
Bruce Williams saw 1 man crushed to death while working in the mines.
So I was on the service when the Flago ran over Ray Wyburn.
The assistant school principal summed up the memorial service today with just a few words.
If it wasn't for mining, West Wallsend just would not exist.
Many of the heritage properties on the list, such as the Newcastle railway station and the Newcastle post office, are already under preservation orders. The new scheme is to give Hunter councils a complete list of buildings and even sites such as cemeteries and roads, which the government believes are worthy of conservation. Owners of listed properties now must apply to council if they wish to demolish or renovate a site. And under the scheme, council must advertise the proposal for 14 days. Local Government and Planning Minister David Hay admits the process won't stop demolition of heritage properties, but it will slow it down.
But this plan itself doesn't completely stop anything happening, but what it does, it gives that breathing space. So if there is significance in the heritage of that building, then something can be done to retain it.
Under the 1977 Heritage Act, the Minister then has the power to place a conservation order to protect the property. Historian John Turner says local councils will now be more in touch with conservation issues.
Unless you've got a document and proper research, councils in particular cannot make good decisions when it comes to an argument about development or redevelopment.
The cutting plant of Depict Distributors, clothing manufacturers, stands opposite its sister factory, Carrington's, famous for its Manchester with leading brand names worldwide, including Actil and Sheridan. Though Depict may not be a household word, the Katie's label on its clothes certainly is. Together, the two factories represent a $15.5 million investment.
All of us were distressed by the frigate decision and said that the Hunter Valley had to hang together and to fight hard and with good spirit for the future. And the fact that we're opening a high technology factory like this in the Hunter, I think confirms that manufacturing has a very important future here.
But the future of the clothing plant has not always looked so bright. Only a few years ago, the garment-making division in Curry suffered severe industrial problems and low productivity, and the 500 employees were reduced to 70. The factory faced imminent closure. Neville Rand, the then Premier who had opened the factory, stepped in and beseeched management to reconsider the shutdown. They did. Today, the plant contains the most advanced technology in the world, with over $1 million worth of extra equipment to come, which will fully automate the process. The company hopes to use adjoining land to expand the garment-making side, with a projected overall staff increase from 600 to 850 by 1991. This should increase garment output by another 45,000 each week. But Depict management today urged staff to fully utilise the new technology in order to keep the business solvent. For unlike other countries, Australia fails to give adequate protection to its manufacturing industries.
It's going to be very hard for an enterprise like this to survive against other countries simply dumping their clothing in the Australian market. So there's a case for protection. And I think governments of all political persuasion have been too ready to accept arguments from bureaucrats to bring the levels of protection down.
Despite assurances to the contrary from the Prime Minister, Australia's most public dispute drags on. 14 weeks after it began, many planes are back in the air. However, the Pilots Federation says take away the RAAF and the internationals and the carrying capacity is only 30% of normal. The other figure in dispute is just how many of the pilots have broken ranks. The airlines say more every day. The Pilots Federation says 95% are holding firm.
I'm feeling it financially, as are most of the blokes. But I'm still firm in my resolve, and I want to see the Federation lead the way back for all the boys.
Tony Toussis has flown for 10 years, mostly with Aero Pelican. He's been offered a contract by Air New South Wales, which he's rejected as it offers no possibility of upgrading.
And the very last paragraph, section 14 or whatever it was, says the company shall decide on all other aspects of the contract.
The man encouraging such pilots to stand their ground flew into Newcastle this afternoon. Brian McCarthy and other Federation executives are being sued by the airlines, but have decided to meet force with force, dragging Sir Peter Abels into the witness box.
We are the ones who've been telling the truth through this dispute, and there's a whole lot of misinformation being put around by the government and also the airlines.
McCarthy is travelling to centres across the country, working to maintain support for the pilots. Last night, the Mount Isa Trades Hall Council voted to fully back the Federation, and tonight the pilots' boss speaks to the Newcastle branch. But if McCarthy is hoping for the same sort of support from the Newcastle Trades Hall Council, he's going to be disappointed. Secretary Peter Barrick says tonight's meeting will only be asked to condemn the government's handling of the dispute, not wholeheartedly back the pilots. Ross Hampton, NBN News.
The enrollment